before we go into an awareness through movement experience, at some of the, to me it's really a fascinating connection between our cultural idea of the expression of certain emotions and actual physiology. Because when you look around the world, these emotions that we're studying, these effector patterns that we're studying, they go across the board. Some cultures may do it at different times. Some cultures may do it on a subtler or bigger level, depending on their situation, but the patterns are all there. And we sort of have taken for granted that they just are, and we don't look all the time at how it's connected actually to the body. And so, for example, when you were doing the sniffing, how many of you, as you were sniffing, started to feel irritation in your nose? Anyone? Okay. So what's really interesting is that when I sniff and make a sound, you actually start to create a histamine response. Everyone knows histamines, antihistamines, right? So as you're making that sound, you're irritating the little hairs inside your nose that are supposed to be sort of there to grab any microorganisms and bacteria to protect you. They go into red alert and they start producing histamines. So, which is why when we cry, we have to blow our nose, because you've created a histamine response in your body simply by virtue of doing that pattern. And that's the body going, oh my God, irritants coming in, irritants coming in. And so it's kind of interesting that we associate the flow with the emotion, but it's also a physiological thing that's happening because of the fact that you literally have irritated your nose. And then at the other end of the breath, which is also very interesting, is the holding. And what happens when I hold breath inside of myself. Laura was talking about waiting, and then she gave the option for the extra little exhale and the push. Your lungs have the capacity to hold over a gallon of air and to release over a gallon of air. But in our average breathing, we're only taking in and letting go just about a quart. So there's 3 quarts of air sitting there in your lungs, or not even moving. And when you wait, what you're doing is actually allowing carbon dioxide to build in the bottom of your lungs. So when you wait and then do that exhale, it's not like you're finding more breath necessarily, but you're allowing the carbon dioxide to mix in with your blood in a certain way in order to produce a kind of letting go response. Right? People who hyperventilate are hyperventilating because they inhale, exhale, and they produce oxygen poisoning. They haven't waited for that little bit of carbon dioxide to build to allow the blood to relax. Also, the whole notion of what happens to our health when we engage in these various postures. And so without even worrying about emotions or anything like that, if you just sit at the edge of your chairs for a moment.
Yeah, we're used to it. Can we do it with you?
Okay. At all, And this is just for you going into yourself, so you don't have to do anything special. But just at sitting, if you have a more or less neutral face, and we're not trying to go into zero breath or anything like that, just sitting there, can you allow a smile to appear? Just smile, and then let it go. And again, and let it go. Now, as you're doing this, and it's subtle, as you smile, notice if you feel any muscles in your upper trunk area responding to the smile, even in the abdomen. And then try frowning. Look what happened to your breath. Look what happened to your chest. And some of you might not feel it yet, and relax a second. But what happens is the facial muscles are actually connected to the skeletal muscles. So when I habitually frown, eventually the body starts to follow along and collapse. gravity also has a tendency to pull our lips down a little bit. And so they begin this downward movement here, and then it begins a downward movement in the skeleton as well. So all of those cliches about, let a smile be your umbrella, and, smiling will make everyone else happy, is actually, there's some truth to it from a physiological perspective. It actually is connected. And, where does a smile come from? Does anybody know why we smile when we're happy? Where did it come from? So the closest they've come to understanding where an actual smile comes from is in two ways. When a baby is hungry, he's doing this, right? He's doing this. He's looking for something to suck on. When he's full, because he's done. And so satisfaction is also saying, I don't need anymore. So, and then of course, the baby does this, and mom goes, oh, he's smiling. And so then there's the cultural conditioning that reinforces the idea that a smile is something that we want. But that's basically, both Darwin and Feldenkrais felt that it was very much related to this moment of satisfaction. Actually, Darwin said it was a baby trying not to burp. So, but
a baby with gas.
Right. Having gas, working with that, but definitely I'm full. No more food. Thank you very much. Okay. So we have put that into our skeletal muscles as a way of also showing that we're satisfied and happy. Now, the interesting thing that science has been coming up with lately is the effects, health-wise, of the frown. Because it doesn't just affect your posture. What it does is, as it's affecting your posture, what's it doing to the skeleton? You're starting to round, as we spoke about a few minutes ago. What else happens? Everybody just take this position for a second, and we'll explore it more in a minute. Notice your breath.
I was going to say it inhibits breathing.
It inhibits breathing, right? So, and don't do it for too long because you'll all get depressed. But if your breathing is inhibited, then it starts to affect the oxygen-blood relationship. You're not getting enough oxygen to your blood. You're not getting enough oxygen to your brain. They have gone so far as to say people who frown are more prone to heart disease. It goes all the way from there. Frowning, bad posture, depression, heart disease. Boom, just like that.
And classic stage fright advice is smile backstage before you walk on.
Absolutely. It's fake it till you make it.
Exactly.
Right?
Release the endorphins even if you're not feeling the impulse.
Right. So just to have an understanding of that, because we do, when we explore these patterns, we can feel the truth of them. We can feel, oh yeah, this is definitely affecting me in some way, but to begin to understand that it's actually part of the structure of the creature that we are is really, really interesting.